everyone! Welcome back to Story Hive. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Let's jump into today's story. I opened my marriage, got pregnant, and now my husband wants a divorce and for me to disappear. I, Diana, want to share my story as a cautionary tale so that others can learn from my mistake. At the time of this incident, I was 25 years old and my husband Paul was 28. We had been in a relationship for nearly 3 years and had been married for one. My husband is a hard-working man, a great provider, and a wonderful, loving spouse, everything I had ever dreamed of. Round a year into our marriage, my husband had a construction project that required him to be out of town for 3 weeks, including 2 weekends. During this time, we maintained daily FaceTime conversations and exchanged multiple texts because we both missed each other immensely. On the first weekend that my husband was away, two of my single girlfriends invited me to join them at a local club. Initially, I declined their invitation, but they persisted, saying they wanted me to be the designated driver as they planned to have a few drinks. Eventually, I gave in, but I didn't inform my husband, mother, or older married sister because they would have strongly disapproved of my decision. We arrived at the club around 10:30 p.m., and the place was already lively with people dancing and enjoying drinks. My friends quickly immersed themselves in the fun while I remained on the sidelines at a round high-top table, simply observing their dancing and the other patrons. During one of the breaks from dancing, my friends brought their dance partners back to our table to rest and chat. During this time, another man, whom we'll call Joe, joined us for conversation. Joe was a friend of one of the guys at our table. When my friends and their dance partners returned to the dance floor, Joe remained at the table with me and we struck up a conversation. As the night went on, my girlfriends became quite intoxicated and created scenes at the club. Joe had to assist me in getting them to my car and generously offered to ride with me to help drop them off at their home. Since he had come to the club with his friend, I agreed to drop him off at his place after we finished dropping off my friends. I then drove Joe to his apartment, and he suggested we continue talking as friends. Initially, I hesitated because I was happily married, but he persisted, saying, "Come on, just for another 15 minutes." Reluctantly, I agreed, knowing it was wrong and foreseeing what might happen. Once we were upstairs, we grabbed some sparkling water and sat on his couch, engaging in conversation. After just a few minutes of talking, Joe kissed me softly on the lips, and things escalated rapidly to the point where we became intimate. Just 5 minutes afterward, I immediately recognized the gravity of my actions and told Joe that I could never see or speak to him again because I was happily married and felt overwhelmed with guilt. He expressed his understanding and regret, acknowledging that he had also made a mistake by being involved with another man's wife. We didn't exchange contact information, phone numbers, or last names. We both lived in Los Angeles, approximately 20 miles apart. I foolishly believed I could get away with this one-time indiscretion, but I was mistaken. Several days passed, and my period was overdue. It didn't arrive after 1 week, then two. When my husband returned home, we quickly resumed our loving relationship. In desperation, I went to the drugstore to purchase a home pregnancy test, and my worst fears were confirmed. I was pregnant with Joe's child. Overwhelmed and disgusted with myself, I needed to confide in someone, so I arranged a meeting with my mom and sister to share my situation and seek their advice. As I recounted what had transpired to my mom and sister, they reacted with profound disgust and anger. They both held deep affection for my husband and couldn't fathom why I would engage in such behavior. Our entire family was devoutly Catholic, and we were all committed to our faith. Infidelity was a taboo subject, viewed as a truly shameful act. I understood that from this point onward, I would be an outcast within my own family. Despite our Catholic faith, I confessed to them that I intended to have a termination because I couldn't risk losing my husband. My plan was to terminate the pregnancy the next time my husband was out of town, keep it a secret from him, and continue our relationship as if nothing had happened. My mother and sister vehemently objected to my decision. They insisted that I must be honest with my husband, and if I didn't tell him within the next 24 hours, they would meet with him and reveal the truth. They also firmly stated that having a termination was morally wrong and something I would regret for the rest of my life. I knew deep down that they were right, and I requested their presence when I talked to my husband because I needed their support. They agreed, and the following day we all gathered in our apartment eagerly awaiting my husband's return from work. When he walked through the door, he greeted us warmly, calling us his three favorite ladies and giving us hugs and kisses. It brought tears to my eyes. He noticed my tears and the solemn expressions on our faces and immediately asked, "What's wrong? What happened? Is everything all right?" I informed him that I had something important to discuss and that he should sit down. He complied, sitting across from me on the couch, holding both my hands. That's when I began. Surprisingly, he didn't react with anger. Instead, he let go of my hands, stood up, and walked over to the stools at our kitchen counter. My mom and sister were in tears as I begged for his forgiveness, saying all the typical things people do when they've cheated, like, "I'm sorry, please forgive me," "I love you, I'll do anything for you," and so on. I expected him to yell, use hurtful words, and demand details about the affair, but instead he remained completely silent, which made me feel even worse. Throughout my emotional outpouring, he remained silent, his gaze fixed on the floor, tears flowing down his cheeks. My mom and sister got up to hug him, and they were all crying. I felt terrible and utterly disgusted with myself. After taking a moment to collect himself, as he re-entered the room, I stood up to comfort him, but he raised both his palms and softly said no. He calmly explained that he needed some time away to think things through for a few days. I continued to attempt to get him to open up, but he remained silent. He packed his suitcase and left. I asked where he was going, and he replied that he would be in touch over the following week. I bombarded his phone with voicemails and texts repeatedly, expressing my sorrow and my desire for him to be a father to my child. Regrettably, he never responded. Instead, 1 week later, I received a call from his attorney informing me that my husband was initiating divorce proceedings. I was utterly devastated and sought solace from my mother and sister. My mom and sister consoled me and assured me that they would support me through this difficult situation and during my pregnancy. However, they made it abundantly clear that they were not pleased with me and were fully on my husband's side. They even mentioned their willingness to testify on his behalf during the trial if I chose to contest the divorce. For the following 2 weeks, I continued to call and text my husband, pouring out my love and pleading for the opportunity to meet face to face one more time. Unfortunately, he never responded. Instead, he relayed a message to me through his attorney, expressing his well wishes for me and our baby, but asserting his need to move forward in life without me. I was utterly crushed and spiraled into a deep depression. Approximately 2 months later, we all gathered in court for the hearing. As soon as I saw my husband for the first time since he left, I couldn't control my tears and tried to rush toward him. However, my mom and sister held me back, offering consolation. Since I didn't contest the divorce and we had few assets to divide, the hearing was brief. As we left the courtroom, I again wanted to approach my husband, but his attorney guided him through a side exit into a meeting room to keep us apart. Fast forward 2 years, and I've been residing with my parents, raising a beautiful baby girl. My mom's sister and dad have been incredibly supportive, and I couldn't have navigated this challenging experience without them. Recently, I started a part-time job as a clerk at the local library with plans to transition to full-time once my child is old enough to attend school. My ex-husband has moved on with his life. She's young, gorgeous, and comes from a great family. I'm genuinely happy for him, but at the same time I carry a deep sadness within me. Despite the joy my daughter brings me and the love I have for my family, there's a significant void in my heart due to the loss of my wonderful husband. Following the divorce, I reached out to Joe and informed him about my pregnancy. We underwent a non-invasive prenatal test that confirmed him as the father. He agreed to provide child support and meet me occasionally to visit our daughter, but I chose to keep his involvement private from my daughter. I didn't want to confuse her with conflicting information about her biological father. Joe, being a good person, respected my wishes. Even though I have never truly forgiven myself and have lived with the regret of my actions, my daughter is my greatest source of happiness, and my mom and sister have been amazing throughout this period. I want to share my story as a cautionary tale for others to avoid making the same mistakes I did. If you are married and tempted to have an affair, please remember the pain and consequences it can bring to not only your life, but also to those who love and depend on you. Thank you for listening to my story. Update. Hi everyone. It's Diana here with a heartfelt update on my life. It's been a while since I last shared my journey after everything that happened with Paul and the tumultuous period following. I made the decision to move back in with my parents. It wasn't an easy choice, but it was the right one for both me and my daughter. They've been incredible through this whole process, providing not just a roof over our heads, but also endless support and love. My daughter is growing up so fast. She's a joy to be around, and seeing her smile every day makes everything worthwhile. Balancing motherhood with personal growth has been challenging, but it's been an invaluable learning experience. I started working part-time at a local library, which has been a fantastic outlet for me. It's not just about earning a living, it's a way to connect with my community and find some solace in routine. Once my daughter starts school, I plan to transition to full-time work, which I'm looking forward to. As for Paul, I've only seen him a few times since we parted ways. He's moved on and is in a new relationship. While it's sometimes hard to see him with someone else, I've learned to accept it as part of our past. It's a reminder of how much I've grown and how far I've come in moving on. My focus is now entirely on my daughter and making the best life possible for her. Joe, the man involved in the affair, has been fulfilling his responsibilities as a father, providing child support and making sure that his obligations are met. Our interactions have been strictly businesslike, with no personal connections beyond what's necessary for our daughter's well-being. This arrangement has helped me maintain a clear boundary and focus on what's most important. Recently, I had a chance encounter with Paul at a store. It was a brief meeting that caught me off guard. Seeing him again, even just for a moment, stirred up a whirlwind of emotions. My daughter, who recognized him from our past, reached out to him, and seeing them interact was both touching and bittersweet. Paul wished us well and left, which felt like a moment of closure for me. It was a reminder of the importance of moving forward and focusing on the future. I share all of this to provide some clarity and closure to my story. Life can be incredibly challenging, and navigating through personal mistakes and heritages is never easy. But each experience teaches us something valuable, and I hope my journey can offer some insight or comfort to others going through similar struggles. Thank you for your continued support and understanding. I wish everyone the best in their own journeys and hope that we all find the strength to grow and heal. Update 2. Since moving back with my parents, things have settled into a more manageable routine. My daughter has adjusted well, and it's been wonderful to see her thriving in a stable environment. She's started attending a local preschool, which she absolutely loves. It's been a relief to see her so happy and making friends. I've been busy with work at the library, and it's been fulfilling. The environment is calm, and I'm finding joy in the little things like helping kids discover new books and organizing community events. It's given me a renewed sense of purpose and a welcome distraction from past worries. In terms of my relationship with Paul and Joe, things are relatively stable. Paul and I had a brief but cordial conversation recently about finalizing some loose ends. It was a moment of mutual respect and acknowledgement of the past, which helped me find a sense of closure. Joe continues to be responsible with his contributions, and our interactions remain focused on what's best for our daughter. I've been focusing on personal growth and self-care. I've started taking yoga classes and joined a book club, which has been a great way to connect with others and find some balance. These activities have been surprisingly therapeutic and have helped me stay positive and centered. Thank you all for your ongoing support. It means a lot to me and has been a source of strength as I navigate this chapter of my life. Here's to new beginnings and continuing to move forward with hope and resilience. Thanks for tuning in to today's Reddit story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss out on more amazing stories. See you next time.